Hello, welcome once again to Photography in 90 Seconds. In this episode, I want to talk about ISO. So there are three components to controlling the exposure of your image: shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. We know that shutter speed controls the duration of light that hits your sensor. Aperture controls the volume of light that hits your sensor. And ISO is a measure of the sensor's sensitivity. Essentially, how well it responds to that light or how sensitive it is to light. In the film days, you literally had to replace the film in order to change the ISO sensitivity. In the digital era, we're quite fortunate in that we can change the ISO by literally hitting a button. Now, on your digital camera, you've likely noticed that you can change the ISO settings from ISO 100, 200, 400, up to 1600, and on some newer cameras, even 3200 or 6400 ISO. There are a number of considerations when choosing the proper ISO setting for your image. Ultimately, you want to have the lowest ISO setting on your camera, like ISO 100 or ISO 200. This will give you the sharpest image, at least from the sensor perspective. Whether you hold the camera prop steady or use a tripod, right, or have a fast enough shutter speed is up to you in order to get a lower motion blur. But from the sensor's perspective, you want to have a low ISO. But, right, sometimes situations don't allow you to use a low ISO setting. Like if you're in a museum or you're in a bar and there's low light and you don't have a flash available, well, you're going to want to use a higher ISO setting. Of course, there's a trade-off. The higher the ISO, the more noisiness or graininess introduced into your image. This will result in a bit of a lack of sharpness, but in the end, right, ultimately you just want to get the picture, and some people will add or want the noise for a particular aesthetic value.
Okay, so let's look at an example. Here's my trusty music player. At ISO 3200, as you can see, there's quite a lot of noise. But if we drop the ISO down to 200, that noise pretty much disappears.
Okay, so that's it for this episode. See you next time.